It's Dennis and Lisa McIntee, and you've reached the Drama-Free Living Podcast. Is someone controlling you? Good question, huh?
That is a really good question.
Almost like who's controlling you?
And are you owning your own stuff?
And that's really sort of the key, because I don't think you can blame others for how you feel. And I think many times we put the responsibility of my feelings on you. You did this, or you made me mad, or you made me frustrated, and you chose that. That's a big thought, right? But I think when you're able to master your emotions, you really can master your life. You master your behavior. And the better you are at mastering your emotions, the better you are at mastering your life. And I think the whole idea is we go through situations, Lisa, and to be responsible, it's to be respond-able. You're able to respond in the correct way. It really doesn't matter the hands that you're dealt, but it's sort of how you play the hand.
Right. The hand that you're dealt really truly can't be helped. You're in a card game and You've got this hand, and what you do with that hand, the strategy you work behind it to have a successful game, that's what it's all about, because you really don't have control of what you've actually been dealt. And that's how life is. Different situations. We don't have control of what's been handed us and what's been dealt us in life. When COVID happened, we didn't have control. There were small things we had control of, but the overarching idea of what I had control of was very limited. And I had to decide, okay, how am I going to play this hand? And how am I going to be successful at the end? So when I look back, I think, I owned my own stuff and I didn't let anybody else control me, but I took control of my hand and I totally won and wiped you under the table.
Well, and it's really taking your personal power back, right? Because I can't control the cards, but I can control how I play those cards. And that's what we really want to talk about today, is really owning your own stuff. You kind of take back your personal power and you're not so reactive. Because how many times do we just, boom, things happen, we just react. And we want you to step back and give some space and be able to respond and really resolve issues faster, because you're not in that blame game, right? You don't blame others. And really when you blame others, you give them power over you.
Right.
Right? It's like, hey, they did this to me. Well, then I'm just the victim. Hey, you made me mad. Then, well, I'm just a victim. And here's what's fascinating. At least I was talking to a group of nurses in Minnesota, and as I'm talking to one of the nurses, I described her, and I told her, I said, this person needs you to be the persecutor, because it just justifies her victim mentality. She needs everything that you do to come across mean and that
was the lens she was wanting to see her life through?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and she was trying to change this lady's sort of mindset, but I said she really needs you to be that persecutor in her life, because that just justifies her own emotions.
That's kind of a hard thought or a hard statement.
And it's a big statement. But I think as leaders, it sort of helps us sometimes, because sometimes we go, oh my gosh, I've done everything I can do. Well, sometimes team members and people are pre-help. They just need to maybe hurt a little bit more before they look up and, kind of look up. And if we're not careful, we kind of step in and try to rescue their own emotions. So the first key is really just kind of own your own stuff.
And so your feelings truly are your choice. And you could have been dealt a difficult hand, and you can be discouraged and frustrated and fearful over it, or you could be encouraged and see the potential and the anticipation on how can I take this and just use my genius to really win in life and to win in this situation. And then sometimes you have to know when to fold.
So Lisa, here's an interesting thought, and let's just go for it. Let's just go for it on the podcast.
I can feel it coming.
Come on, here it is. Okay, so if you choose your feelings, right, and that's a big thought. So if I choose my feelings, can anybody make me feel disrespected? Hey, you disrespected me. Now, I didn't say what they did was wrong or mean or unkind or hurtful, but was it really disrespectful? Oh, so it's sort of like this. So this is many years ago. I remember doing this particular training with a team up in the Northeast. And as I'm doing the training, the owner was sitting in the back, and I'm training his team. And I made this statement about really being passionate about what you do and really paying a price and having that passion, getting really clear on what you want. And I made this statement I travel how I do and I do what I do and I'm always on the road because I have this vision of sending my kids to college. I never, when I grew up, I had to fight my way to go to college, right? We didn't come from, maybe the best upbringing, but as I was going through that, that was a real passion, a real desire. And I made this statement, hey, what I'm doing is I'm doing everything to send my kids to college. And this owner in the back, he just piped out, he says, hey, he says, I thought I was sending your kids to college. And almost this idea of it was
rough.
It really was very rough. But Lisa, it didn't faze me. It didn't hurt my feelings. I blew it off and made a joke about it and just kept moving on. And what was fascinating is at the end of the training, I had a couple of team members and they said, oh my gosh, Dennis, he was so disrespectful. I was like, I said, I didn't really feel disrespected.
Right. And what's interesting with that is the things that we're dealt. We have choices. We have choices in life, how we deal. It's very interesting. 1 in 4 adults in the U.S. have experienced rudeness from their coworkers.
Oh.
This is from Me Equilibrium.
Okay, right.
And so this was a report that 24% of workers surveyed reported having their judgment questioned at work, and 26% reported being ignored by coworkers. So this is stuff that's just going to happen.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen. There was this other one that the research firm surveyed 5,483 employees. So, it's a small segment in the grand scheme of life, but it's a pretty good number. And they found that workplace incivility doesn't just hurt a company's reputation, but it erodes trust between direct reports and managers. So we've got these things that are going on. We have this disrespect. We have this feeling of being questioned or our judgment. And we have to figure out, what am I going to do with it? Because it's going to happen. It is just going to happen.
Yeah, and am I going to let it affect me on the inside?
Absolutely. And then there was another study, and it said a smaller number of workers, they experienced severe uncivil treatment, including angry outbursts, cursing, and yelling from coworkers.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's not what's going on in our team, which I know it's not, but it's happening in someone's team. And we have to figure out, okay, when this happens, and decide in advance, when this does happen to me, what is going to be my response to it? What am I going to say? What am I going to do about it? Because there's disrespect and there's rudeness, and having to figure out what
am I going to choose to feel about that?
What am I going to choose to feel? And yes, they're being disrespectful and they're being rude, but it's not a value judgment on me and who I am and my character.
And it's almost like all the water in the world won't sink your boat unless it gets inside of your boat. And we can't allow people to rent space in our heads.
Yeah.
And almost like this idea, what you think about me is none of my business. And
because you're going to think something of me.
Right, but it's not any of my business, and I don't have to worry about it. And I think many of us, we need to mind our own business. Right? Mind our own business, mind what's going on the inside of here, and really take charge of that and take control of this so that we produce better outcomes. Because we can't control other people, other circumstances. And so what we really wanted to get across, I think, to people, this big thought that you choose your feelings. Now, it's a big thought, so nobody makes you, right? Because if you make me mad, then I've just given you power over me.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to give you any power. I want to have all the power back. And the second thought, Lisa, and I think this maybe will break it down, is a lot of times when I have these feelings, I self-coach myself. And here's how I do it. I say, okay, I feel blank. I feel a feeling because I think what? Right? And it's a great way to coach other team members, because what happens many times as gripes are supposed to go up. So if you're leading a team, you should hear gripes. And many times gripes have an emotion attached to them.
They do.
Right? And the first thing people bring to you is not the complaint, it's typically the emotion. Right? I'm just mad. I'm just frustrated. Well, I can't fix your frustration. I can't fix your emotions. But a great way to coach it with team members is to ask them, okay, you feel frustrated because you think what? And then whatever that answer is, then you can have a coaching conversation and work on changing people's thinking, not changing their emotion.
It's almost as though you're stopping midstream and thinking, wait a minute, why am I thinking? Why am I feeling? I'm feeling this. Let's stop for a second. And it's very interesting. The whole idea of muscle memory.
Yeah.
Doing something over and over until it just becomes second nature. And the more often you stop and say, okay, I feel this because I think this. I feel frustrated and irritated because I think that you aren't listening to me. And when I stop midstream, it keeps me from reacting. Well, okay, wait a minute. Are you really not listening to me?
Then we can have a conversation about, are you listening to me?
Well,
not about the emotion.
Right. We may not even need to have a conversation about it because it could just be that story I'm telling myself, you are not listening to me, is possibly not even true. Possibly you are actually in the middle of something and it's something important, and I just kind of stepped in and I started talking to you, demanding your attention. Well, of course you're not listening to me because this isn't really a time to have a conversation. And so if I don't feel like I'm being listened to, whose fault it is? It's really mine because I stepped in and I completely interrupted you when you were mid-thought somewhere else.
It's really a fascinating idea. And what we really want to encourage people is learn to say your emotion so you don't display your emotion. Mm-hmm. This whole idea of, I feel this because I think this. You can say it out loud to yourself and self-coach your team, or yourself, and you can also coach your team through it. And one of the reasons that we want to have people say their emotions so that they don't display them, because emotions are energy, and it will come out.
It will.
And you cannot say it. I remember Melissa walking in, our daughter, one time, and she says, "Dad, what's wrong?" And I said, "Well, nothing." She goes, "Well, you have angry eyes." Right? Remember angry eyes? And I thought, it just kind of shows itself.
And highly likely you had angry eyes because you possibly were thinking negatively toward yourself, because that's something that you've realized over the last decade or so, is that you tend to be harder on yourself than what is valid?
Yeah.
Is that
true.
A good way to say it?
Yeah, it's very true. I don't know if you remember this, Lisa, but we were driving in the car a couple weeks ago, and and it was silent in the car, and she said, "Are you angry?" And
I said that?
Yeah, you asked me. You said, "Hey, are you angry?" And I was like, "No." And you go, "Well, your hand is shaking." And I was like,
I do remember that.
Yeah, and I was like, "Okay, fine, I'm angry." Right? Because it's going to come out.
Right.
And that's what we want to encourage people, is not to go throw up on your team, not to go vomit all over your team, and you vomit your emotions and then you walk away and everybody's got to clean up the mess.
Yeah.
And really kind of get very good at just owning your own stuff, right? Because nobody controls you. You take control over yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you really, truly have to know the difference between reality and what your perception is.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Okay, so I think that I'm showing up and I'm warm and welcoming and people feel accepted in my presence. And in reality, I am walking in and I'm stomping all over people and I'm kind of leaving a trail of blood in my path.
But you don't even see it.
But I don't even see it because my reality and my perception are often very different. And so what we do in that situation is we ask people, okay, could you tell me how I show up? Or after a situation, sitting down and saying, listen, this happened. I came in and I meant to encourage our team and I meant to just really build them up and highlight all the ways that we've had these wins. And I felt like I came up with some resistance. Could you tell me how I was showing up in that situation? What did people see? What was the mirror? Show me the mirror, reflect who I was in that situation.
And really take some courage to ask people around you. At least we were just in New York City this weekend, and I don't even remember how I said it, but something like, "Hey, we're going to take this train, and you look at me and goes, "Boy, that's pretty direct, decisive. You're pretty domineering." And I was like, "I am?" Right? Because I don't even realize how I'm showing up.
Right. And that is totally great. Okay, we're going to take this train, we're going to do this train. Those words and the concept of it was great, but the circumstance and the environment, it was not a good one, because we were 4 adults and you kind of were overlording it a little bit.
Oh, come on. Not really.
Now, you didn't mean to do that.
Right.
And you didn't want to do that, but that's just how it came across. That's how it showed up. And it was mostly because you were very task focused. You were very, okay, outcome focused. We're going to go here, here, and here. Let's get this job done. We've got something to do.
Well, and another way to coach your team through this, because your team doesn't know how they show up. So a great way to coach your team when they go through behaviors is, hey, when you do this, how do you think you showed up? Mm-hmm. Hey, when you said that in a team meeting, how do you think you came across? Hey, when you said that to a customer, how do you think you were perceived? And what you're trying to do is almost get people to play their own detective on themselves, to look back at their own behavior, because if they can see it, they can change it. And I think part of owning your own stuff is being able to see your stuff. It's like, I can't own my stuff if I can't see my stuff.
Right. And then once you play detective on yourself, then also getting the feedback from other people on how did I show up? How am I showing up? Because I can detective as much as I want, but until I'm in somebody else's shoes,
Yep.
I'm not going to know. What is that? Don't judge a man until you walk a mile in his shoes.
Something like that. Yeah.
And so then being in somebody else's shoes and having them reflect me, it's a whole new perspective on how others perceive me, how I show up. Because really, essentially, in business, in life, in family, we're teams and we're working together for a common goal. Whether it's our family or our team, our business, or us and our clients, we're working together with our clients. The reasons our clients are our clients is we're working together with them for a common goal to accomplish a purpose. Or with you and me in our marriage, we're working together to accomplish a common goal. And so we need to be able to know how we are, what it looks like, and am I functioning fully to the goals that we want to accomplish.
Yeah, and you'll never own it if you don't know it. So first step back and kind of really know it, and then you'll be able to own it. And then, Lisa, what about this disrespect, rudeness, this whole idea? Like, just kind of share that again, some of the stuff you shared before, because I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah, so many people in the workplace. Yeah. There's a lot of, it's just like on the road rage.
Yeah.
People are angry. People are acting out. Unfortunately, it's also this way in some schools and shootings and things. Things are happening, and the smartest organizations and the smartest schools, they're proactive right now. Okay, so when this terrible thing happens, I already have a game plan in place. This is our protocol. These are our steps to action. This is how we're going to protect ourselves in advance. And we already know that if there's an active shooter, our building is protected because we have the right kind of glass. Yeah. Our doorways have locks. Our staff is trained. And we know in advance because we all hope it doesn't happen, but it could happen. And irritation, anger, rudeness in the workplace is the same way on a much milder scale, thankfully, it will happen. Yeah. You will be in your workplace or with a client. Somebody is going to respond or better yet, react out of just intense aggravation and knowing, okay, when this does happen, how am I gonna show up?
Almost have a plan in place. Mm-hmm. And I think we can do that even with ourselves because we're going to get aggravated. We're going to get frustrated. Because we care. Yeah. And so knowing, hey, when I'm aggravated, what's my plan? Mm-hmm. Not don't get aggravated because it just means I care, but what's my plan? And Lisa, one thing that we created, and it's a tool, and we'll put it in the show notes, is called the Aggravation Activator. Aggravation Activator, Lisa, aggravation.
Does that mean you increase your aggravation?
Yeah, I'd get more aggravated. So if you want to get more aggravated, no, I'm just teasing. But it's this whole idea of you can use aggravation as something useful. Because most people say, I don't want to be aggravated. It's useless to be aggravated. There's no sense in it. But what we've discovered is there's wisdom in your emotions. Mm-hmm. And so we want to make aggravation useful. So we'll let people download it. It'll be there in the show notes. But it is simply this 3-part coaching exercise where you self-coach yourself, but you can also use it with your team. It's like, what are you aggravated about right now? Or you could use irritated or bothered, right? What are you aggravated about? Why is it aggravating you? What's one thing you can do to solve it? What are you going to do right now? And what it does is it takes aggravation and it creates an action step from it.
So you don't act out of the aggravation.
Absolutely. You actually become proactive with it, and you actually use it as something useful, not as something to react out of, but you're able to respond to the aggravation.
And I love that, because in the instance of rudeness and disrespect,
Because it probably aggravates you.
it aggravates you. But the other thing is understanding and identifying, okay, they are being disrespectful.
Yeah.
Or they are being rude, but
I don't have to feel disrespected.
But they're not necessarily disrespecting me. The point is not necessarily for them to be disrespecting me.
Yeah.
They are acting out of what is going on internally within them, and it comes out as disrespect, and it comes out as rudeness. And just because you try to throw up on me doesn't mean I have to stand there and let it hit me.
Yeah.
I can back up and let it go by the wayside, because I don't need to step into that. And I don't need to step into the explosion, and I don't need to step into the emotion, because there are explosions that happen at work. There are tempers that rise.
Yeah.
But I have a choice. I don't have to step into that.
And I think that's really the key, because I can't control what other people do and how their emotions are. And Lisa, we heard this many years ago, but it's this whole idea that hurting people hurt people.
Yeah.
And it's a great statement for me to realize that, okay, you just threw up on me. You must be really hurting.
But don't use that phrase. Like, if I throw up on you and you say, you must be really hurting, don't go up to me and say, you must be really hurting. Because
self-coach yourself. Self-coach yourself. It's a way to kind of step back.
Work. It's not to coach other people. It's to coach yourself.
Yeah. And it's really to sort of step back and realize there probably is some kind of reason that you don't know about, possibly. Right? It could be something personally going on that you don't realize, and that hurting people hurt people. And people do things for their own reasons. And to step back, but I'm not going to let it get in my boat. I'm going to own my own stuff.
Because then I would be controlling you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't want anybody to control anybody.
And you know what's fascinating is in this whole thought of hurting people hurt people, sometimes people are having difficulties just in life.
Yeah.
They are hurting, and truly they need therapy. Or
and it doesn't give them a pass to act this way. Just because you're hurting doesn't give you a pass to, be a jerk.
Right. And also there are situations that are more temporary. It could be a bad day. Your car wouldn't start and your garage door wouldn't open, and there were all of these different things. And so honestly, it was just kind of a sucky day. And as a result, you're throwing up on people and not even realizing it. And so then if that happens to me and I think, wow, you were just kind of really spicy today.
Right.
I can step back and I can, if I have a good enough relationship with you and close enough, I can say, hey, is everything okay? Because you seem a little off today. And is there anything I can do? Yeah. And that is a way to support each other.
That's really good.
And that is a way for your offness to not control me and for me not to react back in a spicy way.
Yeah, that's very helpful. And I think we need each other. Life is not meant to be really lived alone. Lisa, this has been great. I think my big takeaway today is this idea of disrespect and rudeness and having a plan. I never thought about it's going to happen, but what's my strategy when it does happen? And I'm going to be angry. I'm going to be frustrated. I'm going to be aggravated. So when I get aggravated, what's my plan? And almost having a preset plan to go, okay, this I'm feeling, okay, work my plan.
Absolutely.
What about you? What was a big takeaway for you?
I love the whole concept of this story. I feel this because I think this.
Yeah.
Now, this is something that we've utilized for years, but it's such a simple concept. It is simplest form. When all of a sudden I am agitated and irritated, I step back and think, wait a minute, I'm feeling agitated and irritated because I think that I'm going to be late and everybody's going to be mad at me. Is that really true? Yes, I am running late. Is everybody going to be mad at me? They might be a little frustrated, but then me knowing that that's what I'm thinking, I can walk in and instead of being all up in a flurry and frustrated and irritated, I can step in and say, hey, team, I'm so sorry. I ran late and please forgive me. Or, hey, I'm sorry I ran late, and I will do my best to not make this a habit.
Yeah, and Lisa, we teach leaders to use that with their teams. When they bring you those emotions, just use that coaching phrase, I feel this because I think this. And we had a group of nurses in Minnesota just last week tell me, Dennis, that was the most helpful thing we have ever heard. That it's a great way. We've used it. We're coaching the drama out of our nurses. And I was just so excited. And it just is a very simple coaching phrase. I feel this because I think this. Helps people own their own feelings. But then it helps you have a logical conversation because I can't fix your feelings. Your feelings are yours, they're your choice, but get down to the thinking and then help people through their thinking.
Absolutely. I mean, and that is a small enough phrase. You could put it on your wallpaper on your phone.
Maybe we should just tattoo it on our arms. You
could tattoo it on your arms, or even a sticky note. I feel this because I think this. Having that phrase up in different places at your desk and on your phone, and if you're remote working or hybrid, on your refrigerator or on the stairs as you walk down, just to remember to have that phrase up. Wait a minute. I'm really feeling on edge here because I think.
Yeah. So listen, we're giving you the Aggravation Activator so you can download it. It'll be there in the show notes. And listen, we want you to use it. Use aggravation for something useful, not something useless, and use it to create a proactive plan so that you can get better results and have better outcomes. So Lisa, this has been fun. Thanks for joining me. And thank you all for being with us on the Drama Free Living Podcast.